The day is 27th day of April 2020. And remember, it's exactly 44 days since the first coronavirus case was reported right here in Nairobi. And as we stand, 363 is the new number, with 8 more new cases and 8 recoveries, which is also good for Kenyans who are keeping faith that we will actually trounce this pandemic. My name is Bentro Njue, and I will be hosting you for a lunchtime news. And we begin on that note where our health reporter Purity Museo with the latest update and what the health CS has been doing this morning. Hello Purity, if you can hear me, kindly bring us up to speed with the latest on the coronavirus.
You know, we always had a very low
A very good afternoon to you, Bentro Njue. We're coming to you live from Afia House, and of course I'm speaking in low tones because there is a discussion going on after the inaugural of this committee on the safety and utilization of blood supply in the country. The CS for Health, Mutahi Kagwe, did inaugurate this committee, which is chaired by Abbas Gulet, and therefore much of the discussion to talk, of course, it's on the rare blood types that we have in the country and what we need to keep, safety of blood transfusion in the country, and probably trying to compare the recommendations by the World Health Organization and what we have right here. Probably to expound on that, when we talk about blood supply in the country, blood safety, and the quality, quantity of blood that we have in the country, where are we and what is the correlation of the importance of having adequate blood in the country versus the COVID-19 pandemic. So let me welcome Abbas Gulet. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Probably you can let us understand why this committee was constituted, what is the importance of this, and of course talking about blood supply in the country. Also, where are we as per the WHO's recommendations?
So I would say thank you very much. We're here today where the Minister for Health, Mutahi Kagwe, has incorporated this new task force to work along with the Ministry of Health to look at the whole issue of blood management in this country. We know we have had challenges in the past, but at the same time, while we have been able to do what we have done as a country over the years, time has come when now we need to rediscover, regenerate ourselves in the blood management of this country by really coming up with modern ways of managing blood system in this country. We know there has been also a lot of criticism on how the blood service has been managed in the past, but I think the ministry and the government has been proactive in taking this decision by forming this task force, and at the same time we know Parliament has been working on this issue. You had Mheshimiwa Sabina Chege here this afternoon also being part of this with a bill that is in Parliament that is being worked on. So I think the task and the role of this task force would be to work through the Ministry of Health and with the Ministry of Health to come up with a new strategy, policy, guidelines, new ways of doing business and new ways of managing blood, and the blood being managed centrally from one source as opposed to different ways being done now. Privately is being done by private people, hospitals and other organizations, yet also the government. The government has the final responsibility of the quality of blood, quantity of blood required. We know we need to close to 9 million units of blood annually. This is what we want to work on. So the idea is to see how we can streamline and create a well-functioning, well-managed, well-governed blood services of this country. That's what the government is looking for, and we are glad that we've been appointed as a task force to work for the
At this time that the country and the globe is fighting COVID-19, probably is there a correlation? Number two, you can tell us where we are in terms of the demand for blood in the country versus the supply of blood.
Well, I don't think this is related to COVID. This was all along being planned prior to this, is that the minister is saying COVID is what we are working on as a country, but all other illnesses and other emergencies are there, and so we need to continue working in all areas of health-related services from the country. So this blood program is something that the government has been working on for quite some time. In terms of needs, we are told that we need closely about 900 units, 900,000 annually. We are able to get maybe 400 or 500, but we need to top this up. What is being done by government, what is done by private sector, all need to come together, and we need to have one blood program, well-functioning, well-managed, well-governed blood program is what the government is looking for, and this task force is to ensure that we come with a clear strategy and policy and legal framework, but also a management program that will deliver this for the government, for the country.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. And that has been Abbas Gulet, who is the appointed chair for this committee on blood supply and quality in the country. And of course, they are going to look at a number of issues. And the health CS was able to say that apart from dealing with COVID-19, the health ministry is functional, and other issues and other diseases also ought to be taken care of. And when we look at where we are as a country, we can only get about 400,000 units. And the World Health Organization demands that every country is able to have a minimum of at least 960,000 units. So that is why this committee here is important. Again, there was also an update, Joe, on the COVID-19. Today, the CS was categorically talking about 8 more cases of COVID-19 reported in the last 24 hours, and 4 of them are from Nairobi, while 4 are from Mombasa, and all of them are Kenyans. And of course, the numbers keep on increasing. And the CS also talked about the call by the president to open restaurants, and he said there are demands and precautions and directives that ought to be adhered to by the restaurant owners before they could say that they're operational. And one of them, a tough one, that before any staff is working in your restaurant, you ought to ensure that they are COVID-free. This means that all the staff ought to have been tested for COVID-19. So that is one of the directives and demands by the Minister of Health before the restaurants could be operational. And number 2, the arrangement also of the restaurants ought also to change, because he's saying one table should be at least 1.5 meters apart from the other, and a person getting to a restaurant should of course have a mask, wash hands or sanitize, and adhere to the social distancing. Again, there is no buffet or self-service being offered in restaurants. So those are some of the recommendations and directives and demands by the Minister of Health for the restaurants to be operational. Again, he has said this is not a license for bars to open. Bars still remain closed, and pubs, and so people can only do a takeaway exercise as far as buying or beer and of course enjoying yourselves is concerned. That's it from this end. Of course, we'll be keeping you updated on what more, especially on the COVID-19 update. But as at now, we have an additional 8 cases of COVID-19. We also had recoveries. 8 of them were discharged from hospitals, therefore bringing the number of COVID-19 recoveries to 114. No additional death has been reported. Therefore, the country still has 14 deaths. My name is Purity Museonjoe. It's back to you, and of course, I'll be giving you a more inclusive and detailed report on our subsequent bulletins.
Indeed, thank you so much, our health reporter Purity Museo. They are reporting live from Afya House boardroom there earlier on, speaking to the chairman of the Drug Supply Committee, of course chaired by, he also happens to be the Red Cross Secretary General Abbas Gulet. 4 new cases in Mombasa, 4 new cases in Nairobi. 8 is the new number of new cases, and 8 is the number of new recoveries, of course bringing the number to 114. Definitely we will be keeping you afloat on the happenings at Afya House. From Afya House, we now head on to Limuru, where our reporter Ed Kabasa is on standby. You do remember that after the cessation of 5 counties, Nairobi being one of them, is that they are also having a roadblock there. Of course, Nairobi is on a partial lockdown, not coming in or coming out. Kabasa, if you can hear me, what is the latest where you are?
A very good afternoon to you, Bentroinjue. I am standing at the roadblock. The place is called Rironi. It is one of the roadblocks which have been set by the police to ensure that the presidential directive on cessation of movement in and outside of counties of Nairobi, Kwale, Mombasa, as well as Kilifi and Mandera is obeyed. The police have been very strict. Previously, we did see that there was a lot of movement apart from the essential services which have been authorized by the government. But the police are currently ensuring that the movement is restricted. This is a directive that came from above. Yesterday, the Inspector General of Police, Hilary Mutiambai, was here for a couple of minutes overseeing the exercise, and we have seen so many vehicles being turned back. Some are coming from the direction that heads towards Nakuru. Others are coming from the Nairobi Central Business District. We have seen so many of them being turned back. There is a number of things that are being required for someone to cross either from Nairobi to Kiambu County or to even Nakuru County, and you are also required to produce these particular documents when you are seeking entry into Nairobi County. Some have not been able to furnish the police with these required documents. There is a document that you are supposed to get from the county commander. If you are attending a burial, for example, how related are you to the deceased? Are you a close family member? Because as required, only immediate family members are required to attend a burial. We have seen a number of Kenyans going to bury their loved ones. They have been able to furnish the police with the documents indicating that indeed they are going to attend or they are going to bury their loved one. The directive has been clear. The police are ensuring that that directive is adhered to. Nobody is allowed in to Nairobi or to go outside Nairobi without proving that indeed you are an essential service provider. And with the number of cases on the rise, of course, earlier we did see that 8 more people have tested positive for the coronavirus. These particular restrictions are going to be upheld for a couple of weeks because the curfew, the dusk to dawn curfew, has already been extended by a further 21 days, as well as the cessation of movement in the counties of Nairobi, Mandera, Kwale, Kilifi, and Mombasa for a further 21 days. Just to update our viewers on what is happening here is that as soon as you arrive at this roadblock, it is mandatory that you stop and you furnish the police with documents indicating where you are coming from and where you are going. And for the essential service providers, we have seen so many trucks being allowed entry and exit. Theirs is easier. For them, it is an easier process as compared to those who in private vehicles like you are seeing on your screen there. It is a process, a rigorous one, that the police says that is mandatory. Temperatures are taken, and after the temperatures have been taken, you furnish the police officers with your documents indicating where exactly you are going and what business is taking you to your destination. If you are unable to furnish the police just like that vehicle, you are turned back to where you came from, probably to go get more document or find a place to park as you wait for that clearance. It is a process that is happening 24 hours a day. The police officers, they're exchanging shifts just to ensure that the country is able to stem the spread of the coronavirus. My name is Edward Kabasam. Back to you, Ben Troinjue.
Thank you so much, Ed Kabasa at Elimuru. There, you, of course, you have to have documents so as to move in and out, and that is one of the roadblocks that has been mounted by the government. And indeed, thank you, Kabasa. I've seen you're keeping warm. Limuru is quite cold. On that cold note, you're taking our first short, quick break, but we will be right back with more news, including business.
Next on.
Nitachukua vyote hapa sasa hivi.
Hapana baba, tafadhali.
Kaka ndo binti yangu pamoja na fedha zangu.
Unamaanisha nini? Mjomba, sijakuelewa.
Hata kujifanya mjinga. Inajulikana wazi kwamba wazazi wako wana pesa nyingi sana. Mbona unamdanganya binti yangu kuwekeza mashine yako?
Nimepata. Umeona?
Jamani, nini tena hiki jamani? Yaani mwaka mzima ndio umepata haka.
Kwani unasema kwa mwaka mzima?
Ni 500,000.
Gawa yangu nataka kujua amefanya nini, anakupa mshahara kiasi gani, pesa hizi hazikutoshi.
Sitaenda nyumbani, nitalala hapa. Na nimefukuzwa na baba.
Next on Corner.
Dama's mother wants nothing to do with me or anyone from the gym. She kicked me out.
Give me some credit.
I never said you were my suspect.
Well, you definitely hinted at it. When I leak something, I go to the mainstream media, not some small, struggling tabloid.
Gym kuna pressure mob sana. Na lazima mimi ndo nimekishwa kila mtu akupoa.
So that's why you're providing sanctuary to your wounded victims, eh?
What?
Nilipata Julia kwa keja yako leo asubuhi.
So?
Welcome back. We are glad you're watching Channel 1 Lunchtime News. Moving on, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union claim over 500 health workers have been assaulted by police in Kiambu County while in the line of duty. The union says it was unfortunate that security officers acted in bad faith instead of protecting the health workers who are on the front line dealing with the coronavirus pandemic.
We want to tell the police that COVID-19 pandemic is a virus, and the virus cannot be fought with bullets, and the tear gas, and everything else. As you are carrying out your duties, we respect your duties as professionals. You equally need to respect the duties of other professionals. This is a war against an invisible enemy, which is a virus. And this virus is being fought by healthcare workers.
If a situation arises where you have a suspected case and you do not have the requisite PPEs, the Occupational Safety Health Act gives you the power and authority to take a step back, because that then becomes an imminent danger to your life and safety and health, to inform your immediate authority in the facility that you do not have these PPEs, and because of that, then you let them, because the Occupational Safety Health Act has duties to both employers and employees. So the employers must provide the PPEs.
According to the World Health Organization,
the number of confirmed coronavirus cases globally is approaching the 3 million mark, according to a tally by Johns Hopkins University in the United States. There are currently 2.971 confirmed cases and over 542 deaths worldwide. The United States has the highest number of cases with a staggering 965,910, followed by Spain at 226,629.
According to the World Health Organization, the real number of COVID-19 cases worldwide is likely to be much higher because of underreporting and undertesting. Worldwide, the number of people confirmed to have the coronavirus has risen to more than 2.79 million, and at least 206,000 have died, according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. Singapore recorded 799 new cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, according to a statement by the country's Ministry of Health. Among the new cases, 14 are Singapore nationals or permanent residents, while the vast majority is work permit holders in foreign work dormitories. A week after allowing congregational prayers at mosques, Pakistan has warned that the virus has the potential to spread rapidly during the holy month of Ramadan. The warning from the government comes after various doctors urged against relaxations in the lockdown, saying any spike in infections would cripple Pakistan's already fragile healthcare system. Pakistan has more than 12,500 cases so far and 269 deaths. In Germany, people across almost all the country are now required to wear face coverings in public spaces as of Monday. Different states have different rules, but most require citizens to cover their mouth and nose in stores and on public transport. While in UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson returns to work on Monday, a month after he was diagnosed with the coronavirus and hospitalized in an intensive care unit. He returns to work amid continued criticism of the government over shortfall in testing and lack of protective wear for NHS workers. In the meantime, countries around the world, including Australia, New Zealand, Iran, and Spain, are moving to ease coronavirus lockdowns as daily cases and deaths slow. Italy has announced it will ease its 2-month-old controls from May 4th. All hospitalized coronavirus patients in Wuhan, the regional epicenter of coronavirus pandemic, have been discharged from hospitals. China's National Health Commission spokesperson said on Sunday. Some school students in Beijing also went back to school on Monday after weeks of lockdown. Finally, Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo has extended the ban on public gatherings by 2 more weeks. Ghana last week lifted a 3-week lockdown that had been imposed on various parts of the country. Purity Museo, Channel 1 News.
Moving on, Nakuru County government has been accused of harassing local investors in the region after the County Enforcement Department allegedly towed more than 10 trucks from the disputed railway grounds to allow for construction of a modern bus park. The aggrieved investors, who claim they were never consulted, now want the government to intervene and resolve the dispute amicably.
A section of business operators in Nakuru have threatened to discourage prospective investors in the region, accusing the county administration of mishandling local investors. This comes after 10 trucks from the disputed railway grounds in Nakuru were allegedly towed by County Enforcement Department to allow setup of a modern bus park.
Already zilikuwa ziko vandalized, na sisi kama kampuni Mombasa Maize Mill sigari zetu hatukuwa tumetoa, zilikuwa ziko ndani ile yard. Lakini leo asubuhi hii nimepata ikiwa zinavurutwa na breakdowns.
The affected business operators say they are surprised that they were never involved in the process to move their vehicles, which have now been placed outside the company's offices. Unable to transact any business, the irritated investors want the county government to move with speed and intervene on the matter, which has immensely led to the loss of property and jobs.
Ni wafanyikazi, bado pia ni investors ndani ya Nakuru County. Leo hii ikiwa itakuwa tunafanya jambo kama hili, surely sisi kama investors itakuwa ni ashirio gani ambalo liko kwa maendeleo ya county na pia kwa maendeleo ya nchi?
Serikali shikana na hawa watu vizuri ndio tuweze kumaliza hii maneno. Ndio maneno yote mambo ikuwe mzuri. Sababu watu wako wanataka kufanya kazi na wengine wamefungia wengine kazi. Sasa tungeomba serikali ingilie kati. Mwenye anaweza amue, sababu kesho hawa watu hawatafanya kazi. Watakaa hivyo na magari yamefunga barabara kila mahali.
Meanwhile, a section of traders who operate in Busia town have been relocated to Korinda as a measure to decongest the border town in the wake of coronavirus. The move by town management will affect traders who mostly sell farm produce and cereals at the open-air markets within Busia town. Town manager Ken Nabulindo stated that the exercise is aimed at combating the spread of COVID-19 by adhering to social distance directive by the government.
Lia soko yetu ya hapa Busia pale watu wamejaa, wamepita kiasi. Na hiyo inatuweka katika hali ya hatari kama wakaaji wa mji wa Busia. Hiyo imechangia ndio tumeamua kupeleka soko pale Korinda.
County Chief Officer for Trade Nelson Kwamini noted that the former market at Kasarani was too crowded and thus posed a risk to residents accessing it. He disclosed that space allocation was free of charge, dismissing claims that beneficiaries were being charged 1,000 shillings upfront before allotment.
Ningependa kuweka on record, tunapeana for free. Wale wafanyabiashara wetu already tuko na ile database, wote tunaenda kuwapeleka pale, tayari tushadi market, tumepea facilities kama choo, maji pia tutaensure kuna maji, na security wetu watakuwa pale kuwapea usaidizi. Kwa hivyo ningependa kusema kwamba wafanyabiashara wasikuwe na wasiwasi. Hii ni ya muda.
Ben Chumba reporting for Channel 1 News.
Elsewhere, cases of insecurity during the curfew hours are reportedly on the rise in different parts of the country as criminal gangs take advantage of deserted streets to commit offenses. Well, traders in Kieni East and Suna West are counting losses after their shops and homes were broken into the early hours of the night. The traders accuse security agents of laxity during the dusk to dawn curfew hours.
With the curfew period having been extended for a further 21 days in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, concerns over increased insecurity during the curfew hours in some parts of the country continue to grow. Residents of Ishuga in Kieni East, Nyeri County, claim the vicinity is not as safe as expected. At a time, security is said to have been beefed up due to the curfew.
Last week duka yangu ilikuja ikafunjwa, ikatolewa kila kitu. Na ilifunjwa saa 5:30 na tukatoka nje mpaka saa 8. Tulipiga nduru kwa tukupata mtu yeyote, hata askari hatukupata. Wale askari tuambiwa wako patrol.
Tulikutwa na wakora huku ni ploti yenye tunakaa. Wakora waliingia na wakavunja, lakini kutoka venye tulitoka sisi wote tulipiga nduru, wakatoka wakaenda. Kutokea kwa barabara tulikaa 2 hours. Hatukuona askari wowote.
The situation is the same in Suna West, Migori County, as business operators accuse security agents of laxity.
Lakini vile serikali inafanya kazi na sisi, hatujisikii kama tuko poa vile, kwa sababu tunafanya kazi, ikifika jioni kila mtu anaenda nyumbani. Hafu sitoshe, badala wafanye doria, hawafanyi doria. Unakuta ukitoka nyumbani unakuja kupata nyumba yako imevunjwa, vitu vimechukuliwa.
Tuongee maskari kama wako hapa, wawache watchman wabaki kwa kila mlango, hata wakifanya patroli watchman ibaki, wasaidiane. Manake watchman ni security, au pia ni security, wasaidiane pamoja.
According to these residents, thugs have been terrorizing them as early as 8 p.m.
Tunalala nje usiku mzima, njoo wesi wanalala kusunguka usiku mzima. Hatuoni patrol, hatuoni polisi wowote, tunashindwa. Security tuko nayo kweli? Hiyo nduka ndio ilikuwa tegemeo langu.
Security patikane ya kutosa, kama watu wameenda nyumbani wamewacha biashara yao hapa, serikali watoe ulinzi ya kutosa. Paka wenyewe warudi asubuhi.
Migori County Commissioner confirmed they had received reports of burglary incidents, saying police officers have been assigned to investigate and bring culprits to book.
The security challenges that you're talking about in Masara might be isolated. They might take advantage of probably a situation. Maybe when it is raining, nobody can hear. But our police officers have covered every inch of this county.
Kamche Menza for Channel 1 News.
And a section of families evicted from the Mau forest last year and resettled at Elemekenyu area have received relief aid to cushion them from the economic effects of the coronavirus. Emurua Dikir Member of Parliament Johanna Ngeno, who made the donation, called on Narok County health officials to ensure the families are routinely tested.
More than 500 families in Narok South in Olemekenyu area have a reason to smile after they received foodstuffs, bar of soaps, masks and hand-washing facilities to maintain their hygiene.
Tumesema waje tukuje tuwa provide, tuwape masks, tuwape sanitizers, tuwape tanks ya maji na tuhakikishe kwamba kila mtu wakati anaingia kwa hii camp awe amenawa mkono na awe amevaa mask.
Emurua Dikir Member of Parliament Johanna Ngeno urged the residents to use the provisions prudently and adhere to the measures put in place by the government to protect themselves from contracting the deadly virus.
Ningependa kuomba wahisani wote ambao Good Samaritans tukuje tusaidia hawa watu kwa sababu hawana mahali kwingine ya kuenda. Hawana mtu mwingine ya kuwasaidia. Ni sisi wa Kenya of goodwill tukuje tuwasaidie.
Ngeno also urged the national and county governments to hold talks with medical officers threatening to down their tools, saying they play an integral part in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
Madaktari tunaambiwa hawana hizo mavifaa ya kujizuia ama kujikinga ndio wasishikwe na corona. And they are threatening to go on strike. So tungependa kuambia madaktari waje tuongee na serikali kwanza kidogo kwa sababu mkienda strike watu wetu watakufa.
Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
And the Kenya Private Sector Alliance has lauded the government's effort in combating the spread of the coronavirus by ensuring that the agriculture sector is vibrant despite the pandemic. Through their chairman in charge of agriculture, Dr. Bimal Kantaria, the alliance requested the government to put in place measures to ensure that there is food security with the onset of the long rains in the country. Speaking during the Agriculture Journalists Forum, Bimal further urged companies to help mitigate the effects of job losses and layoffs by offering incentives and consumables to the affected staff. He also noted the Ministry of Agriculture's effort to deal with the desert locust menace, which he says could pose a challenge to food security in the country.
I'm very closely with the government. We're part of all the government committees. They've been very proactive with us. If you look at what could have happened and what has happened in terms of the numbers, the flattening of the curve, I think the government has been amazing. They've been very proactively allowing our trucks to move during curfew times, then they call them essential services. All the agriculture-related products were immediately put on the essential list. So if you look at our trucks, they're moving up and down the country without any problem. Produce is moving from upcountry into Nairobi without a problem. Rains have come on time. There's enough fertilizer in the market. There's enough chemicals in the market. Of course, there's a locust problem. But the locust problem is it's a big problem. And I think the government under Professor Boga, the PS, is doing a good job. But it's a big problem. I mean, no government can plan for something this big. So whatever we say about other situations, I think this time the government has been admirable in how proactive they've been. And they've been listening to private sector quite a lot. Every single couple of days we've been meeting them, be it the Ministry in the East African Community, be it under CS Betty Maina, CS Yatani, all of them have been very close to private sector and listening to us. Again, I commend the Kenya government and Kenya Airways in particular. Kenya Airways have put on extra flights. You saw on Friday they put another flight on. There's a couple of flights leaving this week from KLM to Europe taking Kenyan produce. Again, Kenya Airways is not a freight company, it's a passenger airline. But when they heard our pleas, Kenya Airways reacted very fast, very positively. Their MD, Mr. Allen, and their board of directors are proactive. They've actually converted the passenger flights into cargo flights. And we've got a number of flights now leaving Kenya. And secondly, I think the government is proactively looking for more freighters to leave this country. So I think, again, commendable for Kenya Airways in understanding the plight of exporters, helping us to put more produce on planes and sending them to Europe and UK.
Elsewhere, a section of Thika town residents in Kiambu County are counting losses after flood water swept the area, leaving a trail of destruction. The residents blamed the chaotic situation to the poor planning of the area. In Narok, repairs at the Nkare Ngosoro Bridge along the Narok-Maimahiu Highway, which was swept away by the floods, have begun.
The rains pounding many parts of the country have continued to cause more harm than good to Kenyans. Thika Town in Kiambu County is the latest to be affected, as residents continue to count losses after torrential rains lashed many parts of the town, leaving behind a trail of destruction. At Section 9 Estate, just a few meters from the town, the floods have made way even into the area Member of Parliament Patrick Wainaina's office.
Ofisi yake iko hapa tu karibu ni mita kama 5 ama 10. Kwake kumeflood. Kukiflood yeye utoroka na anasema yeye ni engineer. Sasa ametuacha.
Residents living in the posh locality say the situation was aggravated by blockage of a drainage system in the area.
Hii maji ni ya mvua, hutoka huko juu pande ya Mango. Hii ndio drainage imetengenezewa. Lakini hapa hii drainage zamani ilikuwa open. Ikakuja ikazibwa wakati nyumba iko kijenga for the sake ya parking ya huyu mwenye nyumba. Sasa wakati aliweka drainage ndogo, plastic zinaziba. Zikiziba maji inakosa kurudi ikwenda mbele inarudi nyuma.
In Murera and Kimbo areas in Juja, residents are living in fear of outbreak of waterborne diseases, including cholera after rainwater mixed with sewage flooded their homes. The most affected are homeowners in Kimbo area, where at least 20 homes are submerged in water following heavy rains.
So hasa wakati huu kumenyesha sana, tumekuwa na shida sana ya maji. Na hii maji ni kama pia imeshikana na sewage, kwa sababu kuna mahali maji inatoka na huko juu na tunaona vile inakuja ni kama bado kuna vile imepita wakati walikuwa naweka hiyo sewer line ni kama imeshikana na sewage.
Elsewhere, Kenha team has begun repairs at the Nkare-Nkonsol Bridge right next to Masai Mara Vocational Training Institute along the Narok-Maimayu road that was cut off by flood waters on Thursday. Area residents claim since the bridge was swept away, business has been affected at great length.
Tuko na magari, iko na machakula, ingine iko na madawa na ina njia ingine ya kupita. Kama tunaweza ruhusiwa, kwa hiyo kanjia tutengenezewe, kwa serikali tunaweza shukrani sana.
Tumepata shida sana kati ya hii barabara yetu imekatika na tumekuwa na shida ngumu sasa. Kama saa hizi naenda duka moja kazi, natembea karibu kilomita 3 mguu ndio nipate gari ingine.
In Busia, flood victims in Nakuru West constituency have received over 520 bags of rice and 20 cartons of oil from the national government.
The consignment actually contains over 550 bags of rice, 20 cartons of cooking oil. And from those who received the consignment, it is said it's meant for the flood victims of Amkura West Ward, particularly Kiriamas, Parater, Odioi, and Totokakile.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Timothy Kipnosu.
It's time to do business now and begin with the mass production, where the production of personal protective equipment has given manufacturers a lifeline as demand for other non-essential goods has been on the decline. Omega Apparels, which had been forced to close shop and send all employees home due to the closure of schools that saw demand for their uniforms, it produces a dwindle. A few weeks on, the company machines are back to life, and employees who were home on unpaid leave have their jobs back, as the company now produces face masks and masks. Here is Betty Kiptum with those details.
David Odoyo, Omega Apparels Limited in Nairobi, had lost income for some time since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has forced the temporary closure of many organizations across the world. The company that Odoyo works for used to produce uniforms for learners. However, with the closure of schools across the nation in mid-March, the factory no longer receives any new orders forcing workers to stay at home. He was worried.
Life has been becoming very difficult. This type of disease has brought many challenges to many families.
Raj Shah, the manager of Omega, was even more anxious. He had to look for new orders for the company to make money until he embraced the idea of producing masks.
Had to change to masks so that my people can survive. We make on a daily basis about 15,000 reusable cloth masks, and we make about 25,000 surgical masks.
More local companies like Omega are shifting their production to tap the new opportunities created by COVID-19 and demand for products.
We have seen a number of manufacturers retooling and getting into new areas of manufacturing to meet the growing demands and needs in the market. We have over 30, people now doing face masks, both cloth and the surgical ones. The list keeps increasing as members see that as an opportunity to invest in.
Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 Business.
And when we look at e-commerce, where you use your phone or your electronic device, perhaps to request for something or to get something that you want out in the market, well, it has been on the increase, and especially on third world countries and Africa, Kenya being one of the countries that has made a strides in the e-commerce. But joining me right now is the global Copier CEO, Tim Steele. Tim, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ben.
Perhaps very quickly, just a brief mandate on what you guys do at Copier.
Okay, so as you've described, e-commerce is very familiar to all of your viewers. Copier provides an m-commerce or mobile shopping service to people who've historically been very hard to reach. People who live in remote rural areas, people who live in peri-urban areas, dense urban areas, people who are away from the city and haven't normally been able to access all the goods that we who live in the city have the privilege to get. So Copier brings that kind of service to people who are hard to reach, and we do it because we have over 11,500 agents in rural villages, in peri-urban areas. Those agents give access to our catalogue to their customers. Customers place an order, and within 2 days, the order is delivered to the person's agent, free of delivery charge, no delivery charge. And we offer food, anything from sugar, rice, flour, agricultural equipment like chaff cutters, construction materials like mabatis. So effectively, it's taking people who are offline, online, and giving them access to everything that's in the city.
Thank you so much. How many countries do you operate in, and what is the business module of Copier here in Kenya?
Yeah, so Kenya is our first country, country obviously that has great conditions in which Copier can thrive, and we are able to bring service to over 550,000 customers across central Kenya, through Rift Valley, into Western and into Nyanza.
And so many businesses are grappling with the coronavirus pandemic. How have you been able to stay afloat, bearing in mind that some countries have had lockdowns, and here in Kenya we have 5 counties that are under cessation?
Yeah, well, I think firstly the m-commerce or m-shopping model has become very, very popular to consumers over the course of the last few weeks, because the customer has realized that shopping with Copier, or indeed any other e-commerce player, is a way of avoiding having to go to busy, crowded places like markets or supermarkets, and therefore it's possible to stay home and stay safe with goods being delivered to their locality. So that's proved extremely popular. So we've seen a big increase in demand. We've obviously had to make sure that we cater to that demand very, very safely. So we've had to change all of our supply chain procedures, make sure that our staff are social distancing, make sure that we sanitize hands, all of our staff wear face masks so that the customer can be very confident that goods will be delivered in a very, very safe condition. We've also been lucky that the government has acted so swiftly and designated the supply of food and particular supermarkets, which is where Copier falls in the critical and essential services, such that they can continue to operate and move vehicles and move people and move therefore outside the Nairobi metropolitan area. So we've been certain to comply with those regulations, and we've now been able to move very, very effectively and efficiently and maintain very, very high service standards through this period.
Indeed. And Tim, you've talked about Kenya having a conducive environment. Why do you say that, and especially at this moment? Plus, the cost of goods, are they, because I'm purchasing goods that you are going to bring into my home. Do they have an additional cost, perhaps?
Yeah, so I think Kenya's environment at the moment is very conducive because Kenya is so digitally advanced by comparison to many other countries. So, for example, all of our payments are made by mobile money, which means that we can have a cashless transaction. All of our drivers have Android devices on which they record proof of delivery. We can do that in a contactless way. So it's extremely important that we use digital technology to enable our business and enable a safe business, particularly at this time. In terms of pricing, we've made it our mission through this period to keep our customers and play our part in keeping Kenya fed, fit and healthy. And by doing that, we've worked with our suppliers to ensure continuity of all essential goods, and we make sure that we are monitoring prices in the market and doing our absolute best to keep those prices as low and affordable as possible to our customers.
What is the future of e-commerce, and especially in Africa? Plus, being a foreign company, have you been able to partner with some of the guys that you get your goods and services from?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard for anybody to gaze into the crystal ball and think what the future might be for any industry at the moment. But the early indicators are that consumer behavior is going to start to skew towards e-commerce and mobile commerce, where it means that the consumer can safely social distance while doing their shopping and avoid risk of infection and contribute to prevention and flattening the curve of COVID. So I think that that's a definite trend that's happening. We've seen that with the increase in demand that we as Copier have faced, and I think that's in common with the rest of the e-commerce industry globally. In terms of being a foreign company, we're a foreign company in investment, absolutely, but seeing Kenya as a very, very attractive market as we continue to grow. Partnerships have always been critical for us, partnerships with local producers of all goods possible, whether they be food or manufactured goods, and particularly partnerships with the community where we've created literally hundreds of and thousands of jobs. So as I said earlier, we have 11,500 agents, all of whom are benefiting from being able to offer Copier services into their community. We employ something like 250 drivers and drivers' assistants and recruit all of our transport providers from the communities in which we operate. So local partnerships are absolutely central to us as we grow the business, which improves service to the Kenyan consumer.
And the coronavirus pandemic, as we wind up, has really hit so many businesses. We're not actually looking at the crystal ball, but how do you think the e-commerce platform will bounce back after the coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, I think it very much depends on how consumers maintain the changes in their behavior at the moment. So I think all of e-commerce is seeing more consumers shopping online. And I think that's happening because consumers are realizing that it's a safe way to shop. And it's also happening because now the consumers, when they get their first order, their second order, and they have it delivered on time and perfectly, realize that this is a new way of shopping and in fact could be, for them as individuals, a better way of shopping. And I think it's up to us as an industry to continue to provide really good, fair pricing, excellent service, excellent follow-up if there are any issues. And then I think that the growth in e-commerce will be sustained.
Thank you so much, Tim, for your insight indeed. And at least we are grateful for that. That was Tim Steele, who is the CEO of, the global CEO of the digital e-commerce platform Copia. I'm quite sure you've seen some of the vehicles branded the same as some of the ways of mitigating the coronavirus pandemic. Many people have been urged to use e-commerce, where at least you're going to use paperless. And of course, you are not going to come out of your house. Well, moving on with business is that farmers who have maize stocks from last year's harvest are being urged to sell the produce to millers as imported grain is expected in the country in June. Strategic Food Reserve Chair Noah Wekesa says the price of maize is still favorable and farmers should take advantage to sell the produce.
And as we said earlier, it's a maximum of 4 million bags. And these quantities have been worked out after we looked at the shortfalls that will be there between now and the harvesting season in late July.
These are the sentiments from Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya that are causing panic among farmers in the maize growing belt who have opted to sell their produce in fear of being priced out by imported stocks. However, speaking on phone to KBC Channel 1, Agriculture Principal Secretary Professor Hamadi Boga said the earliest the imported stocks will hit the market is in the next 2 months.
Yeah, and the importation that is being done by millers, that maize will not arrive here before June. So all they need is to release the maize to the millers right now. Nobody will go for expensive maize from Mexico because it's being charged duty at 14%. Because it takes 60 days for a ship to sail from wherever to here, from Mexico to here. It takes 60 days.
As a measure to protect local farmers, the imported maize will attract a 14% import duty. Despite this, Strategic Food Reserve Chair Noah Wekesa is encouraging farmers to stop hoarding maize and sell directly to millers since the prices are still favorable.
People are going right to the villages, traders are going right up to the villages to get money, to get maize at 3,000 shillings. And now the information from millers is that they are buying even at 32, 34.
Farmers also fear that importation of maize is likely to expose them to unscrupulous traders who will exploit them on pricing. Benson Roba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
To sports now, to some optimistic news from the field is that the Italian football top league Serie A sides will be allowed to return to individual training on 4th of next month and team training on 18th same month. For the Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte announced the first steps in lifting the country's coronavirus lockdown.
There are hopes that Serie A fixtures could resume between 27th of next month and 2nd of June with an end date for the season of early August. However, there was no formal announcement on the possibility of when Serie A might resume, even behind closed doors. The Italian Football Federation hopes to begin testing players for the virus at the start of May to allow for a safe return to training and has already drawn up a medical protocol. Serie A was suspended on 9th of March and a number of players tested positive for the virus.
And on that sporting note, we wrap up Channel 1 Lunchtime News. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ben Troinjue. Remember, for this and much, much more, be sure to join in our social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and also on www.kbc.co.ke. More news coming up. Remember, on a day that we have 8 more new coronavirus cases announced today. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, good afternoon.